Oh, well, thank frig that's over.
We're going to be installing a 4-link air ride on the shop truck today. Yeah, take a look under here. We can see massive 1-ton leaf springs. They're coming out, and we're going something better. Here we can see the 4-link setup, set of parallel bars, new front spring hangers, double convoluted bag, pan hard bar. Pretty regular issue 4-link setup.
Through the magic of television, we've already pulled one leaf spring out. And as you can see, looking at that, that's a 1-ton stack, and you can see maybe why we wanted it out of there. So we're going to replace all that with that. Okay. The instructions say you gotta, well, most common things say that you gotta heat, cut the rivets. These are all factory riveted in. We just took a super sharp air chisel, which you're gonna see here while we do the other side, and lopped them right off, knocked them through. There was nothing to it. Again, keeping with the theme of this truck, to keep stuff undoable, revertible. We undoable and revertible. We could always switch it back. Not that anybody's ever going to fault you for having a truck that rides nice. So we skipped over one side so you guys didn't have to see us bumble around trying to figure this out. It took an extensive amount of modifying and plotting and stuff, although this is a kit to get it to fit. It is a parallel bar, should maintain pinion angle. Full air suspension. So now we got to start on the hard side. Lop these hot rivets off of the spring hanger. We'll scale it, paint it, everything back in there. For now, we're just pulling these lower bolts out of the hanger. We left the hanger on the other side. We'll probably take that off later and fill the holes in just to make sure. The air compressor we put in this, that's already in. Put this in this box. We'll be designing a ride height valve system for it, so it'll auto height, and it'll have a dump feature. We're not going to plumb it in right away, but later down the road, if we want to drop the truck out, we can do that. So let's tear this side down and we're going to get started. Definitely don't want to attempt to throw that dog dish on the floor there, being soft aluminum, and they're getting hard to come by. You're starting to hear stories here, tell there, of those things starting to get stolen. So we actually don't have all the best ones that we have on the truck for that reason. Now you can see the spring stack again, cutting them hot rivets out. Got some help on that one. And it's a good way to rattle 30 and 40 years of junk out from under the vehicle. This thing was a fire department truck, so you always think it's exceptionally clean. Well, not necessarily. There's always nooks and crevices where that stuff's hanging out. Quite the job there. Gonna go into cutting. I'm pulling the back bolt out while he's doing that, which you can't really see. Then just lop the U-bolts off and they're out. You'll see here in a second how we're going to do that. Cutting along the side of them there next to the spring stack. The springs don't usually pull the heat and mess up too bad. And 9 times out of 10 you replace them anyway. So we usually cut along there anyway. One of those was kind of loose. The center bolt was missing the nut. I don't know what happened there. Those springs have been in there not a super long time. Okay, there we got it prepped and painted. We had to knock the lower shock mount off on both sides, unfortunately. Go through and cut the welds, grind them down flush. So we hit that prime painted. And we always use a high solids, just a spray enamel like that, so that we can touch up and adjust and clean it up as we go. Okay, we're going to go ahead and install the spring hanger here. It said to, somewhere in the instructions or something, it said to drill out the frame holes to 1/2 inch. We didn't do that. Them are hot riveted in from the factory, and 7/16 grade 8 hardware is going to be way harder than a hot rivet anyway. We did have to drill out the upper holes in the C channel part just a tiny bit to get a 7/16 through there, but it shouldn't affect really anything. Again, keeping it in mind, that we could ever, if we so chose, we could go and put the original hanger and leaf spring back on it. Now we're going to start installing the mounts in the rear around the axle, and that's a clamshell wrap that goes around the axle. We did have to modify both sides. We had to V out the oval area that goes around the spring perch. It collided with the perch, and that took, in total a couple hours. But nice clamp design. There's no other welding to the axle. It bolts and clamps from both directions, 6/8 bolts. So it's definitely not going anywhere. The top bracket there, when we get the double convoluted bag in, that required you to push it up to the frame. We had to drill 5 holes there, unfortunately. The new shock mounts to the factory mount in the top and to the clamshell bracket that goes around on the bottom. Pretty nice setup and nice angularity there. Works good. The pole arm brackets, there you can see I'm lining it up. We had to leave the spring hangers loose. We had to leave everything loose really to get everything aligned and into position. Made that mistake on the first side, the side that we didn't bother to film it. That was one of our bumbles. And we had to take everything back loose and start over again. There was a slight little bit of warp or bowl that kind of pulled the hanger in a direction just far enough that made it hard to get together. Okay, now we're wrapping up the rest of the pole arm brackets. The panhard bar was going on at this time, which runs from a bracket that bolts into the driver's side frame up above the axle and runs over to that clamshell bracket on the passenger side to laterally position the axle and maintain its fore aft. There you can get an idea pretty good of the linkage travel of how she's going to go and maintain a nice pinion angle and a good ride for it. It did end up with a higher bag PSI than I had originally anticipated. I only thought it was going to take 10 or 15 pounds to put up. Well, this truck's getting heavier all the time and more tooling on it, so that would be a miscalculation on my part. So now here we are, all said and done. It's been checked for pinion angle, drive shaft angle. We've measured it for dog track. All that stuff's good. You can see there is the automatic, leveling valve ride height that we set up conveniently where the brake proportioning or brake reduction valve, load reduction valve used to be. I do need to get it into an alignment shop that's willing to take it on, do a four-wheel alignment on it. Overall impressions, now that it's finally in there, it's good. I like it. The bumps are still there, but they don't rocket you into the ceiling as it used to. The shocks. Getting different shocks will be the biggest single factor, I think, in that. We've got Fox reservoir shocks on order, back order, of course, as you might expect, but on order, and I think that'll take care of that because these shocks here are a hot mess.